On July 8th of 2017, we left home to tour the Oregon Trail by way of the side roads and the back roads as opposed to driving across the country via interstate. We left home on the morning of Sunday, July 8th and drove to Honesdale, Pennsylvania, where we stayed overnight, continuing on to Allegheny National Forest and stayed at the Cayuga Campground, and then on to Cuyahoga Valley National Park outside the Cleveland, Ohio area. So our first campground other than the KOA on our way over here is the Cayuga in the Alleghenies in Pennsylvania. And this is probably one of the more lopsided sites that we've had. We did a pretty good job of leveling the trailer off by putting it up on these blocks. And I think the bed in the front, the lower part of it is at my chin level. We do have a very nice site. We're the only ones down here, which makes it very quiet also. And as we sit out here, we have looking up into the woods. Big crack in the wall. Big crack in the toe wall. Rimrock Trail. I said Rimrock. And we'll be able to tell for sure because I recorded it, so find out if I was being... We're standing here on the Rimrock Trail and we're currently in some fairly humid air. However, we're getting a nice dose of air-conditioned blasts coming down out of these crevices. It's like an air conditioner blowing on us. It's unbelievable. Oh, easily. I'm sure it's pretty moist air, but it sure feels good. So here's our air-conditioned area coming down there. And here, there's a crack that goes all the way through. So this is the Allegheny Reservoir. Right, Susan? After visiting the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, we headed across Ohio and Indiana with an overnight in Crawfordsville, Indiana, and then continued across Illinois and Missouri to the Kansas City area, where we stayed at the Watkins Mills State Park while we visited the beginnings of the Oregon Trail in Independence. This would be Watkins Mills State Park, and that would be Watkins Old Mill. Pretty spot.
Yeah.
You're walking away from me. National Frontier Trails Museum in the city of Independence, Missouri, where we started our exploration of the Oregon Trail. So off we headed along the Oregon Trail on the back roads of northeast Kansas and into Nebraska, visiting Rock Creek Station, the Fort Kearny area, Lake Ogallala, and areas along Route 26, and eventually to Lake Minnetonka and Scotts Bluff. This is the Red Vermilion River crossing. In 1849, a large wagon train camped on the east bank, and they were struck by cholera, leaving 50 of their party dead within a week. Of the over 50 people who were buried here, only 3 stones remain today, and the only one bearing a name is that of T.S. Prather, who died on May 27, 1849. In 1847, Louis Vieux built a toll bridge across the Red Vermilion River, and although this Vieux family cemetery does not represent the immigrants crossing the country, it is a true testament to the fact that the death of children was indeed a part of family life.
So we are driving along State Route 148 in Kansas. And it has been a very enjoyable day, very rolling terrain, lots and lots of cornfields, lots of exciting trail memorabilia to stop and see. Sorry for the bouncy road, but it's a bouncy road.
And it's a county road, not a state road.
My bad. It's a county road, not a state road. Looking out the side window here.
Corn!
Corn! Lots and lots of corn!
Certainly shows the terrain that the Pony Express would have been going across, at least in this part. I think the Pony Express only survived for 2 years.
Hollenberg Station, 500 feet.
Opportunity to say we have seen more corn. Just unbelievable the amount of corn. It's everywhere. Yeah, that's right, pretty much since leaving Pennsylvania. So this is the Pony Express Hollenberg Station. This is called having the campground to yourself again. Pretty unbelievable how empty this place is. Well, actually it is empty except for us and the host of the campground. There's nobody else here. Established in 1857 along the Oregon and California trails, Rock Creek Station eventually became a Pony Express stop as well. The overland immigrants were able to replenish supplies here from a small store, and by paying from 10 cents to 50 cents to cross a toll bridge, they avoided the arduous task of lowering their wagons down into the creek and pulling them up on the other side, a tedious task that could take hours for each wagon. The uneven terrain that we're looking at here is referred to as swales, which is caused by all the excessive traffic from the wagon trains that cross through here, having left Rock Creek Station. Platte River, Nebraska. It's actually in 3 parts here. This is the first part. We're out on a hike bike trail. And the thing that we found interesting is that it's flowing from west to east, and we both thought, or expected to see it flowing from east to west. I know, that's something we hadn't thought of. Yeah. Yeah. Logic would dictate that it would be flowing east.
We are approaching the Great Platte River Archway on going over Interstate 80. We are heading west on 80. And there it is. There it goes.
This is a statue of the Martin brothers, aged 15 and 12, who were returning home with a load of hay in 1864 when they were attacked by Party Sioux and Cheyenne Indians. The boys were pinned together by arrows. They did tumble off the horse and were left for dead, but they did survive and made it eventually to a doctor where they were unpinned and survived into middle and old age. This is Windlass Hill,
The top of, yeah.
and the entrance to, I think they say, Ash Hollow.
Yeah.
So that's the Oregon Trail, looking out that way. And we're on the high point before they had to drop down the real steep grade on the other side.
They are 600 miles from Independence, and it's taken them 40 days to get here. And they're still less than a third of the way.
So down there where that vehicle is pulling out is probably just about where the bottom is. Right down there. And you can see it's a pretty, hopefully you can see that it's a pretty steep drop off from here. We'll try to get some other pictures. Doing a pan over in the other direction. So that's what the pioneers were looking at as they came across here. And Route 26 is what we see going off in the distance there, which basically parallels the trail that they took. This area looks to be about 20 feet deep where it's rutted out from the wagons coming down this hill. You able to see anything on the other side?
Just more. I'm sure time has.
Oh yeah, the growth.
hardened.
This was a result of the wagons coming down with their wheels locked.
Driving along Route 26 on our way to Scotts Bluff, and that in the distance, in the hazy distance, is Chimney Rock, which the pioneers could see for days and days before they got to it. But it is real pretty countryside with the mountains coming up. Say hello, Ricky.
Hello, Ricky.
There he is. There he is.
Chimney Rock. You can sure see this thing from a long distance. You can understand why the settlers could see it for miles and miles and miles.
Yeah.
So you don't get the wind.
So we're looking at Courthouse Rock on the right and Jail Rock on the left as we're driving along Nebraska Route 88. Very pretty.
As you approach the Scotts Bluff National Monument, it is extremely easy to be able to envision the wagon trains crossing over Mitchell Pass in the distance. After visiting Scotts Bluff, we headed up Highway 26 for 60 miles to Lingle, Wyoming, which was our base for visiting Fort Laramie, the Oregon Trail Ruts, Register Cliff, and Guernsey State Park. This is the Fort Laramie Guardhouse, which is where we found the Gatling gun. This is the solitary confinement area of the guardhouse. There's 5 spaces there. Each one of those represented a 5-foot long by 5-foot tall cell. And repeat offenders were usually put here for 2 weeks on just a diet of bread and water. I found it interesting to compare the doors on the building to the doors that are in the rendering, not the rendering, but the actual photograph that's right here.
But also the window.
also known as the Guernsey Ruts or Deep Rut Hill. This is a place where the trail was forced away from the river, crossing a ridge of sandstone, with the track being worn to a depth of 5 feet, creating some of the most spectacular ruts remaining along the entire length of the Oregon-California Trail. The geography of the area dictated that practically every wagon that went west crossed the ridge in exactly the same place, causing these impressive results. Register Cliff rises more than 100 feet above the North Platte River Valley, south of Guernsey, Wyoming. This area was the first night camp west of Fort Laramie for Oregon Trail travelers. Under the shadow of the chalky limestone bluffs on the south bank of the river, the immigrants were able to pause and set up camp, pasturing their animals and resting from the hardships of the trail. The stopover gave them time to record their names and dates of their passage. Many of the inscriptions on Register Cliff are from the 1840s and 1850s, the peak years of travel along the trail.
Driving through Guernsey State Park, through very pretty canyon areas.
This is the campground we went up inside, isn't
it? Yep. We drove up this road into Fish Canyon.
Lingle, Wyoming, and the Pony Soldier RV Park. We had a thunderstorm move through our last night here, and we thought that the wind was going to tear the beds right off of the trailer. About 10 miles south of us, they reported gusts of 70 miles an hour. For the next stage of our trip, we decided to take a break from the Oregon Trail and visit the Black Hills, Custer State Park, Deadwood, and Devil's Tower before continuing west on the historic trail. lunchtime with Bella and Susan in Spearfish Canyon, South Dakota. Nice little campsite, or not campsite, picnic area. Which has us right on a stream. More of an idea of what the picnic area is like. And of course, because Bike Week at Sturgis starts in about 4 days, 5 days. Yeah, today's Monday, it starts on Friday. We're hardly ever away from the sound of motorcycles, which frankly sucks. So we headed south back down to Casper, Wyoming, where we hooked up the Oregon Trail again. And from Casper, we also visited Independence Rock and Devil's Gate. The National Historic Trails Interpretive Center in Casper, Wyoming provides interesting historical information about the people who traveled the Oregon, Mormon, California, and Pony Express trails in the 1800s. Their stories are told to interactive exhibit areas as well as a very engaging multimedia presentation. Trader's 4th of July celebration in 1830, this huge rock became one of the most famous of all Oregon Trail landmarks. It was called the Great Register of the Desert because more than 5,000 names of early immigrants were carved on the boulder. Starting the trail in early spring, if immigrants along the Oregon Trail had not reached Independence Rock by the 4th of July, they knew that they were behind schedule and might face severe snowstorms in the western mountains. Devil's Gate, Wyoming. Devil's Gate, Wyoming. The Sweetwater River flows through there. During the final days of exploring the Oregon Trail, forest fires were numerous, causing visibility to be poor. We stayed overnight in Lyman, Wyoming, Pocatello and Boise, Idaho, Pendleton, Oregon, and Cascade Locks, Oregon. In Pocatello, we awoke to a coating of ash covering the trailer and truck, along with smoke that irritated our ears and sinuses. We still enjoyed our tour, and in spite of the smoke, ever envisioning what the westward immigrants had experienced. A flock of birds.
Yeah.
This is the Columbia River, much drier than what we had anticipated. Looking across the Columbia at the state of Washington through all the smoke and haze. My battery is flashing that it needs to be charged, so this might shut off unexpectedly. This Columbia River is dammed up in many places. Back when the immigrants were coming across, this was a pretty treacherous crossing because of how strong the current was in most places.
Thirsty. You like the cold water, don't you?
So, picnic on the Columbia River at the Dalles. That's where we're at, is at the Dalles. Not exactly the most picturesque with the creosoted old telephone poles in front of us, but at least it's a shady spot. Currently 91 degrees out. A couple of gals went by on paddleboards a while ago. State of Washington on the other side. Okay, Mount Hood, Oregon. It is August 9th, and on this patch of snow that I'll zoom in on, we actually, with the binoculars, could see people skiing down the slope. Actually, people walking up the slope and then skiing back down. Not sure it's visible in this video, but that's what we see.